Hey family, happy Wednesday. I'm excited about tonight's live stream. You all have been asking me questions about the EA exam prep courses, and you all know I'm a pretty straight shooter. I will stay in my lane and I'll answer the questions that I know. And if I don't know the answer to somebody, I will go find an expert. If you are new to me and my channel and you're like, why in the world are you talking about any of this? My name is Timalyn Bowens and I am America's favorite EA. As an enrolled agent, I'm licensed through the Internal Revenue Service to represent taxpayers before the IRS in all 50 states. As a matter of fact, as an enrolled agent, I'm authorized to represent any taxpayer anywhere in the world as far as their US tax problems are concerned. And I imagine if you're watching this video, you are interested in becoming an enrolled agent as well. So tonight, I have a special guest with me, and we are going to talk about one of the top EA exam prep courses that's out there. But if you're kind of on the fence and you're like, well, why should I consider becoming an EA? What is there to becoming an EA that I can't do by just being a tax professional? I'm glad you asked. As an enrolled agent, one of the main distinctions is that you now have the opportunity to represent taxpayers. Now, there is a debate. There will be people that will tell you I can help with tax problems, even though I'm not an EA, CPA, or tax attorney. And that's true to a certain extent. They can help them. They can do what we call tax resolution and help them solve that problem. However, they don't have the unique function of being able to step into the taxpayer's shoes and represent them so the client doesn't have to worry about it at all. If you become an enrolled agent, you will have the privilege to do that and represent taxpayers. Now, I don't want to hold up our conversation too much, so let me give you a little bit of background on my special guest. And as you were hopping on the live stream, make sure that you drop in the comments and say hello. I see I have 2 people on Facebook right now, 1 person on YouTube, and you all know how StreamYard does me with LinkedIn. So let me make sure I don't have anybody on LinkedIn. And if you are streaming on LinkedIn right now, make sure that you go ahead and give StreamYard permission to show your comments so that me and my guests are able to see them as they're coming through, okay? So let me get this pulled up. And of course, nobody wants to be my friend and say hello right now. Let me find the live. All right, so we are good on LinkedIn. So you can tell by the title of the video, I am going to be talking to somebody from Gleim to talk about the Gleim EA Review System. Tonight's guest is the Professor Relations Coordinator for the company. And to me, this was a unique position that I didn't think of, but it actually makes sense. So back when I was an accounting major, the only thing that was pushed was CPA exam, CPA exam, CPA exam. And I fell in love with tax law. So when I graduated, I knew I didn't want to become a CPA, but I knew I still wanted to work in the tax industry. I knew that I wanted to be able to represent tax clients, but there was nobody there to advocate for the EA designation. So, what my special guest tonight does, they actually work with universities and other organizations to help people become enrolled agents. So, without any further ado, I am going to welcome my guest, Courtney Sefjack. Hi,
Hello.
Courtney.
Hi. Hello, all. Hello, Timalyn. Thank you for having me this evening.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to actually pull up a comment. So we have Seven Hall right now. And Seven, I am so glad that you made it because she is actually one of the people who asked me if I would do a review on Gleim. And I don't think I let her know, like, I'm going to do one better. I'm going to even bring somebody from Gleim on. So, Seven, thank you for being on here. Steph Tripp says, I will. Hi, Timalyn. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube. But Courtney, I want them to be able to hear from you. One of the very, very interesting things that you told me on our first conversation, you, I could tell you had a lot of genuine respect for Dr. Gleim. And one of the things that you said is that he wanted to help others in helping them obtain certifications and becoming enrolled agents without any hurdles. So, with that being said, how does Gleim partner with aspiring enrolled agents to help them pass the exam without those hurdles?
We actually tackle that a number of ways. So I'm going to say this, and I know some are going to get frustrated, but we're still educating some on what an enrolled agent is. But we are bringing that to the light for certain. There's more and more. I've actually been hearing ads online. They're like, contact your CPA, your enrolled agent. I'm like, yes, because enrolled agents are licensed tax experts. I mean, you're able to represent clients in front of the IRS. There's no boundaries, no borders. If you're an enrolled agent here in Florida, where I'm located, you're an enrolled agent in Minnesota, in North Dakota, in Hawaii. It's everywhere. So Dr. Gleim's mission and passion was always helping individuals to achieve their dreams, achieve their goals, and to not make it unattainable, no matter their education, their economic background. He was like, everybody should be able to obtain all of these certifications. So he started out with the CPA. He hand typed that on his typewriter, launched that first. We also then developed our CMA, our CIA, and then the EA was the last to join our suite. But it has been a definite powerhouse. We've had individuals that are tax preparers looking to take that next step and that next launch in their tax profession to become enrolled agents and licensed tax professionals. We have CPAs that are finding that they want an extra background in tax knowledge. So they're getting their EA in addition to their CPA, which some have actually said they think the EA is harder than the CPA exam, which I thought was interesting. They're like, it's all tax. I'm like, yeah, I know. And then we also have been promoting this at all of the colleges and universities to accounting students, because we don't want them to think that the only path is the CPA, or the only path is to getting a 4-year degree. Maybe they want to get a 2 years degree, and then they want to get a bookkeeping certificate and then take the next step for enrolled agent. So we've been working with a lot of colleges and universities as well, and a lot of the VITA programs. VITA is awesome, and I love VITA. It's such a great thing to do. It's such a great resource for the community, for those that participate in it. So we've been trying to expose individuals to the EA with the VITA programs as well. And I think that
So,
passion that Dr. Gleim had just rings through in everything that we offer.
I'm going to, I apologize, interrupt there because I was introduced to VITA in school because they did a lot of heavy recruiting to make sure that we gave back and got exposure to different firms. But for those who may not have had the same experience, or maybe they don't have any type of tax or accounting background, do you mind explaining what VITA is?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So VITA is the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, and it is on college campuses, but it's also not on college campuses. You can go to like the local United Way, you can go to the AARP. So even those that are individuals in the community, not college students, that want to give back, as Timalyn said, and gain some experience in preparing taxes, are able to do that. So it's a great way to gain hands-on experience with preparing taxes for underprivileged individuals in the community. So just because they can't afford to go to an enrolled agent or a CPA or pay top dollar to get their taxes done, doesn't mean that they should miss out on all the benefits of having an expert prepare their taxes and get the most money back that they can, right? We all want extra money at the end of the year. That's like the
Right.
best part ever. It's like, I just got my tax return. So it's a great way to do that. And for those on the college campuses, when they're looking and recruiting to firms and employers, putting that they participated in VITA on their resume has proven huge. I mean, we've talked with many potential employers and firms that say that they love seeing that on resumes, and that would go for anyone applying in the job market as well, because they see that you, one, have the experience, and that two, you've done the great community service and giving back, and they love to see that.
Yeah, and it's an amazing way to get real life hands-on experience because you never know what you're going to see day to day when you work at a VITA location. Let me see. So we have Austin Gambrill who says, "Good evening, Timalyn. This is for you, Courtney." Seven says, "Yes, I did ask for the Gleim EA review. Looking forward to hearing this and learning more." Cool beans. And you all, any questions that you have, I try to keep up with the comments, but be sure you drop those in the comments. And like I said, I may not be able to answer it because I'm not the expert on Gleim, but we have Courtney here, and if she can't answer it, she knows where to go to get the answer to. Carlos says, "Hello, Timlin." Hello, Carlos. Thank you for joining. And my LinkedIn is a little bit frozen. So, you guys on LinkedIn, if you were on there, I apologize because I cannot see you at this moment yet. Um, so, with Gleim, the official name is the Gleim EA Prep course. What is the format for the review course? Because as you mentioned, one of the things Dr. Gleim wanted to do is make sure that it was accessible for different people, like if they were just getting out of college or the professionals. So, is there more than one way to study? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So, we have a couple of different package options because, again, we don't want to just siphon everyone into one area. So we offer our EA test bank, we call it. Just this year with 2024, we did move to going green to try to help out with the environments and improve our going green efforts. So all of our books in our packages, whether it's the EA test bank or whether it's our premium system, they're all digital by default. But you do have the option to request printed books if you want them. Dr. Gleim loved paper books, and I think a lot of us nowadays still love paper books. So we do still have them.
Yeah.
We just stopped sending them as just by default, and we found that more are kind of liking that trend as well. There's lots of great options available with the digital book online. So what I mean by that is in our premium system, we have like a big multimedia approach. So we give you the digital books, which are all in outline format. Dr. Gleim developed that outline format because he thought it was a lot easier to read and kind of highlighting the information and just having a wall of text. Because unless you're a real diehard text love enthusiast, it might not be like the most compelling information to read. It's not like you're reading like a Nicholas Sparks or a Dean Koontz or something. You're like, I'm reading text. But for some that they really love it. But it was just easier on the eyes. We could input the examples a lot easier. Any of the formulas that you need to remember or recall. I know you're flashing back to that from your test taking days, Timalyn. You're like, I had to write this down while I was in there. So that's all easier to see. But what's nice is that our course, we have an adaptive course where it really caters to everyone's strengths and weaknesses. So if we're all studying together, say for EA Part 1, the individuals, we're not all going to have the same experience. I know a lot of people struggle in basis. We hear that that's kind of a very tough area. So it might take us a little bit longer to get through that. We might hammer out more multiple choice questions. We might have to watch the videos, listen to the audios for subliminal messaging when we sleep. We're doing all of those things. But then if we get to something like gift tax, we might breeze right through that and quote unquote test out of that using, there's a Gleim gauge in there, a proficiency gauge, which really streamlines the studies because it tells you when you're ready to move on, so you're not sitting there spinning wheels, or like most of you in taxation I've found, looking for that 100%. I can't move on until I get 100, or I can't move on until I get
Yeah.
90. No, you can move on. We gauge it like 75 and we tell you to press on and go from there. So all of those kind of combined help, but we always revert you back to the digital books if the answer explanations that we provide you don't gel. So we provide thorough answers and explanations for everything, whether it's right or wrong. That's another Dr. Gleimism. He always said that he learned more from his mistakes. So we give those thorough explanations in the course, but if for some reason that's not jiving and you're not understanding, it'll revert you in the digital text so that you can reread it. And that's awesome because I mean, you could flip through the pages in the printed book, but having it digital to be able to do that is something that's, I think, really nice and interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I did a video recently on how I studied for the exam, and I was sharing, nobody's learning style is the same. And even if they're similar, they're not going to be the exact same. And you also have to take into account what type of experience you had. So I also heard like people almost scared me about section two because of all the bases and depreciation. But from my experience in public accounting working at the CPA firm, that's what I did all the time. So for me, when people ask me, I was like, oh yeah, part two is easy. And I have people like, no, it's no, it's not. Um, but yeah, even with learning styles as well, like I know for me, I have to have, if it's something I'm going to retain, not reading for pleasure, I have to have it physical, touch it to highlight and everything. So that's cool that you guys have the option to still get the book. And then the digital, I like how you have that so you can reread it. Like you said, the subliminal messages. We have a question, and I am actually going to answer this one. If I leave anything out, please feel free to follow up. But Carlos asked, what is the difference between an EA? So, Carlos, when we are looking at the differences between the two designations, they most definitely do overlap. But when we're looking at the CPA, that is going to be a certified public accountant, and they are licensed through their state. All right. So the requirements for passing the CPA exam are a little different for each state, just because states' rights, right? Um, but for the most part, you have to have an accounting degree or an accounting certificate after you receive so many credit hours. There's a certain amount of hours that you have to work under with the CPA as well. And they have adjusted the test for this year so there can be more of a focus. So you could do it with a focus, like, for example, in taxation, but there's still a main core part that you have to look at. But it's going to cover a wider variety of actual accounting functions. So when people talk to me, we say tax and accounting because tax and accounting, they really aren't the same thing. They're two different worlds, but they depend on each other, if that makes sense. You have to have good accounting to be able to get a good tax return done. Um, so, with that being said, I'll use myself as an example. I didn't take the CPA exam initially before the EA exam because I knew I wanted to focus in tax. And for the CPA exam, I had to look at things such as audit. Well, I knew I didn't want to be an auditor. I knew I didn't want to do internal audit. So for me, I pride myself on being a lifetime learner, but I still wanted to do something that I felt was going to be necessary. Now, with that being said, there are CPAs because part of the EA exam does cover taxation, especially like I said, now you can take it so more of it focuses on that. There are CPAs that do focus on tax. Some of the most brilliant minds in the tax world I know are CPAs. However, when we look at the EA designation, the education requirement is not the same. And in addition to the education requirement not being the same, is a license that is through the Internal Revenue Service. Okay. So it specializes and focuses only on tax. So individual, business, and then we are looking at tax representation, which I'm not sure if you were on earlier, but I mentioned that's where we actually step in on behalf of the tax client and handle their IRS issues. So those are the main differences, the focuses, but they most definitely overlap in both an EA and a CPA can help you with your tax issues. Yeah, you got anything to add to that, Courtney?
No, I think that you covered that pretty well. That's usually one of the things that we mention too is that a lot of people think that CPAs just do taxes, and then they don't. They do a bunch of other different things. A lot of, like you said, internal audit, auditing, examining. There's it's a lot of different things. So if it's I want
Hmm.
tax, I want tax, I want tax, the EA is definitely the way to go. But as we talked about before we started the meeting, we mentioned that if you did double certify, like if you did CPA and the EA and you started out in public accounting and then just decided you wanted to get some experience and exposure, but then move on to the EA and transfer, well, you don't have to transfer your license with the EA, but move elsewhere or develop your own tax practice or your own business, you would still be able to do all of those things. So,
Yes, which is
yeah.
a very good point. So if you move after you become a CPA, you still have to um,
You have to
Is
transfer your
comply the
license.
word? Yes, transfer your license.
Yeah, it's called like a reciprocity. You have to pay money because you have to pay money for everything, so why not? But yeah.
Yeah, so I think we covered it good. Carlos said thank you. So Steph Trip on YouTube says, I'm an individual without a tax background. Beyond completing my own complex taxes and supporting a local CPA this tax season as an evening weekend gig. Is the prep course designed not only to prep to pass the exam, but to actually learn the material? My goal is to find a prep course that does both since this is a new career for me. I will let you answer and then I'll address that one. Courtney.
That is a great question. And yes, we want you to learn the material. There's not really a way for you. Well, I guess there is a way, but you don't want to just cram, so to speak, and then because you're going to need all of this information when you're an EA and you're doing taxes, right? Are you going to remember and retain absolutely everything? No, but that's why they have CE, so you can keep up to date on the tax laws. But I know many EAs will tap into their knowledge, which is what they learned on the exam, and they tap into their experience. And then if they need help with referencing, they can use additional reference tools. Like I know the tax book's a great one. I hear all EAs, Timalyn probably has that book too, the tax book. You flip through and you reference guides, things. It's fantastic. But our prep course does both. We want you to prepare for the exam, but we want you to learn the information. So we want to build a foundational knowledge in taxation for you to pass the exam. So that's one of the reasons why we encourage you to go through the course in its entirety and go through everything. What I mean by that is they have the information on the IRS page. It's also on the Gleim web page that tells you the topics that are tested and how many topics are tested. So there's 100 multiple choice questions and it'll tell you how many items are in there. So some people will strategize and think, okay, well, this tests on 30 items. So I'll study all of the topics that's, presented on that. And then this one only tests on 10. So I'll only, not devote time to those 10. And you can't really do that. One, you don't want to because you need to learn all of the information. But two, if you skimp on studying those other smaller tested areas and you get into the exam at Prometric and you get question after question after question on all the non-tested areas, then you're frazzled dazzled because you're like, I didn't study this. I don't know the answers. So the proficiency gauge that we have in Gleim streamlines your studies and tells you areas that you can move on if you already know the information. That doesn't mean you just get to gloss over it, but it means that you know the information well enough that you don't have to go through every single step of it. You don't have to read, you don't have to watch the videos. You'll go through those, but you'll test out a lot faster. And at the end of it, what we do that's a little bit different, I think, than some other review courses is we have a cumulative review built in throughout. So it's all broken up into little bite-sized learning, but as you progress through every study unit, it's reverting back to prior chapters so that you're seeing different questions sprinkled in and you're constantly revisiting those. So by the time you get to the end and what we call final review mode, you have a full-blown, well-rounded review to tackle your mock exams that we give you. We give you 2 of them, and we want you to take both before you even go into Prometric. But those allow you to make sure that you have knowledge everywhere so that when you go into Prometric, you pass that first time through. And the good news is they'll tell you right there at Prometric that you've passed or failed. So you can walk right out, all happy, do your happy dance, and then move on to your next part.
I am sorry. LinkedIn is going in and out on me. So heard you talking over here, but I knew you had stopped. But yeah, thank you for answering that. I just want to add, because this is a question that I see often in email and DMs on LinkedIn. Um, so I like to compare it to getting your driver's license, how there's a written part of the test, because a lot of people think, okay, if I pass the EA exam, I know everything there is to become an EA and I can go out and save the world. When actually passing the exam just gives you the authority to go out and save the world, but that doesn't mean you know how to save the world yet. So, you know, all of the different courses that are out there are designed to help you pass the exam. but they don't actually teach you how to represent clients. You have to actually get out there and do it. It's like when you pass the written part of your driver's license exam, you were a licensed driver, but it wasn't until you actually got out in the car and started driving and put that practice and work in that you actually knew how to drive. So I don't want to, in my experience and what I've seen with everything, there is no EA exam review course that's going to teach you how to do representation. It's all going to be geared toward passing the exam. Unless you all have an additional product that does do that, I don't want to speak to that.
No, I
Okay.
mean, it's yes, you're not going to get the experience that you need without diving in feet first, like you said. But as far as like learning the material and then just kind of like it jets out of your head, we don't want you to do that. We don't want you going in, you're done with the exam, and then that's it. So the way that the material is presented in Gleim is, and what I was trying to explain with the learning portion is that it truly does teach you the information so that you keep it, you retain it, and then you learn it to apply it once you get to where you're going in your tax profession.
Yes, I would 100% agree with that. So, Steph said, thank you so much. And then she said, great analogy, Timalyn. Appreciate your insights and us discussing this. So, folks on LinkedIn, again, I'm going to encourage you all, if you are putting in any comments, make sure that you give StreamYard the permission because I am freezing over here. So I can see that we have 7 people on LinkedIn and everybody's quiet over there. So, Courtney, my next question, because this is something too, while people are looking at different exam prep courses to purchase, what makes Gleim different? Like you talked
Mm,
about the different format and options, but like what, I don't want to say pride and joy, but like what is the pride and joy of Gleim that says, okay, this is why you should choose us to help you pass the exam?
yeah. Um, I think there's a couple of things that make us different and unique. And I'll start by saying that while I hope everyone that isn't already an enrolled agent and is planning to pursue the EA uses Gleim, obviously, um, we want you to use what's going to work best for you. So I always encourage everyone that's planning to prepare for the exam to go out and do demos of the courses before they buy them. You've heard the phrase try before you buy. Definitely do that. I can also post somewhere in the comments a link to our demos online, but that's the best way to make sure that the information that is presented is going to work for you because we all have the same information. Like we all get the same information from the IRS. It's just the way that the material is presented that's going to work the best for you. So that being said, a couple things that I think that set Gleim apart is that we develop and create all of our materials in-house, and we have true educators to help us with that information. So we've developed and written our prep materials, but then if you look at our Gleim Instruct videos, we have Nate Wadlinger. He is a professor currently at the University of Central Florida. And we have JT Egan. He's an enrolled agent. He's actually with the Indiana Society of Enrolled Agents. They have both helped to develop those materials for us and do the Gleim Instruct videos. We have that cumulative review that I mentioned that is super fantastic with helping you make sure that you're hitting all the marks and using that Gleim gauge, which is very, very helpful in tracking your progress and performance throughout your studies. But we also have Facebook study groups, and we
So
help you.
I
Mhm.
cannot hear or see Courtney anymore. Will you guys let me know in the comments if you guys can still hear her or if we are frozen?
Oh no.
Let me see. 'Cause
I can hear you. I can hear Timalyn. Oh, she says I can hear her. Everyone can hear me. Okay. I don't know if I should carry on. Wayward Son, as the song goes. Um, okay, well maybe I'll do that so that we're not just hanging out. But um, So some of the other things that I think make us different, we have, yep, somebody just said I am on Facebook. We have Facebook study groups that you can join. Our material is self-study, but we don't want you to feel like you're alone in the process. So we don't just sell you the materials and then you're on your way. We want to help you with every step of the process. So we actually have personal counselors that come with our premium review system. That's actually what I did when I started at Gleim. I started as a personal counselor. They aren't content experts by any means, so you can't call into our personal counselors and say, like, "Hey, Courtney, I want to know gift tax and why this question was." I'm going to be like, I don't know the answer to that. But we can help with setting up a study plan, giving you study tips, figuring out the best way for you to strategize to study for the exam, and to help you through that process. So we have folks that utilize the services of our personal counselors with weekly calls. We have some that just want periodic check ins. We want some that just call in when they just want to talk. So we're here when you need us. And I think that that is something that is super helpful because customer service is something that Gleim always prides themselves on. And I think and hope that that's important to everyone else. I mean, the last thing you want is to try to ask for assistance or help with something and it takes forever for that person to get back to you. So I think that those are some of the things that really set Gleim apart from some of the other review providers. Timalyn, are you back with us?
I am back. I thought I lost you, but I lost myself. My husband told me earlier that I don't know what you all have in Florida, but here in Louisville, Kentucky, we have Spectrum, and he was like, "Hey, Spectrum called and said there are some outages," and I was like, "Not today." So then when I saw that I dropped, I was like, "Oh my goodness," and I was like yelling his name. Um, but let me see. So everybody could see and hear you. It was just me. So thank you for going ahead and taking that. Somebody's here laughing at me. I'm glad you guys can laugh at my pain here. Um,
It
when you were
always
talking,
happens when you have something like this. It's when there's nobody,
yeah,
nothing going on, or like all your kids just want to watch YouTube till the end of time. Everything works perfect, but then when you need it for something, it's like, nope, not working today. You're like, great, I'm good, thanks.
right. Well, I appreciate you answering that question. I see the responses. Um, so, with you talking about what makes Gleim different, did you already go over the premium and the traditional and those price points?
I didn't discuss the price points. I did talk about the different features that were available in them. So I mentioned that the premium system offers our personal counselor service, which is how I started out at Gleim. But as far as price points go, our premium system is definitely going to be the most expensive because it has all the bells and the whistles and the unlimited access. But the retail price on that for all three parts is $7.99. We offer specials sometimes. So $7.99 is like the most that you would pay. We also have financing options, and you can break that up and pay a la carte if you wanted to. Like if you wanted to start with just part one and then buy part two and then buy part three, you could do that as well. Our traditional system for all three parts is a little bit less than that. It comes in at around $6.99. And then the Mega Bank, the book and test prep option that I mentioned, comes in at around $4.99. But the thing to realize with those other two systems, the traditional and the book and test prep option, is that while they are less expensive, you have access for 12 months. That's an important thing to keep in mind. So you can't test for the exam in March and April, which is fine. 2 months isn't a big deal, right? Most people will start studying in May and then they want to try to finish up. I know you can test through February, but let's be real. Most people want to try to finish up by like turkey time because they want to eat turkey, they want to watch football, and they want to do all the holiday stuff. So we'll go ahead and just say it's May to November. So you think 12 months is plenty of time, but for some it's not. So we are also pretty flexible. So if you start with one of those options with 12 months and you find this just isn't going to work, just call us, talk to us. I'm sure we have upgrade options that we can move to the premium system if you find that you need more time or you want the extra resources that are available for that. That's the other real good thing about Gleim is we have the same goal and that we want you to pass the exam as quickly as possible and as easily as possible. So we definitely work with everyone.
Cool. So those of you those of you all that have been following me for a while, you know I need to go to the optometrist. So if I'm making funny faces, I have notes here from me and Courtney talking, but I can barely read them now. So that's what I'm over here squinting at at the moment. With that being said, one of the cool things that you mentioned to me was the questions in the back of the book. Do you want to talk about those a little bit? Because I hadn't seen questions in the back of the book. Now, granted, I posted earlier today, I was studying, took the exam 7 years ago, but I was like, am I just forgetting that, or is that like a new thing? So if you would speak to that, because that is different and another way like to get practice.
Yeah, so that's also another Dr. Gleim initial stamp or paving the way, whatever you want to call it. So in the printed books, that every book historically has always had questions in the back of the book. So you are, and I'm thinking back to like my elementary school where I'm like doing my math and then flipping to the back to see if it's right, and then I'm doing it, or like you're trying to not cheat, but you're like, I kind of want to look back here and see what's in there. So when they were typing up the first CPA book on the typewriter, it was actually Mrs. Gleim who said to Dr. Gleim, Irvin, it's really annoying to have to flip to the back of the book to see whether it's right or wrong. Can't we do this an easier way? Maybe do like a side by side format. And that's how the side by side format was born into the back of the book. So we have them at the back of every study unit. There's a couple different pages with multiple choice questions. All of the questions are on the left hand side, and all of the answers and explanations are on the right hand side, so that you could really just kind of put a paper over the one side and then kind of slow down and go through it, which is super helpful. And it allows the affordability to be able to study offline if you aren't able to study online, which is why another reason why we still have the printed books. But I don't want folks to think that if you don't get the printed books, you're losing those questions, because spoiler alert, they're included online too. So they're all included in the adaptive course. They're just mixed in there and thrown at you at different points in time. So they're all in the online course too.
Yeah, that was a really cool feature when you brought it up, because back when I was studying, I think, and as you mentioned, thank you to Gleim for educating people, but we weren't aware of what the EA designation was, even though it's been around literally forever. So when like trying to get answers to how to study and all those types of things, all of that information was online. So even though like I wasn't on Zoom or Google Meets with people, I had to like kind of build my own study material and questions and work through stuff. So to already have it there in a book, like you said, especially in 2024 when we're trying to limit screen time and everything, like that's a really big plus to have, um, to somebody like me anyway. I would think. Of course, I'm not studying for the exam now. Um, do you have anything else that you would want to share about Gleim that you think people that are like in between review systems that they should know that we haven't already covered?
The only thing that I think that I would maybe mention is that we've got a lot of different resources that are available online, but I think that the true what we hear, we have what we call like success stories and things coming in from people, and I feel like the overwhelming, resounding thing that we keep hearing from folks is just how grateful they are that we helped so much, not only in the way that the prep material was laid out, but just in our assistance as well. Them being able to call in to their personal counselors, or them being able to call in even our salespeople. I mean, we don't come across as, okay, well, we just want to sell you something. Like we truly want to ask questions and find the thing that's going to work the best for you. You're able to call in. I'm primarily, as Timalyn mentioned, I primarily work with schools and universities, so I'm on a different route. But because customer service is so important to us, we don't want the phone just ringing and ringing and routing and routing. So on occasion, I get what we call overflow calls. And I joked with Timalyn to say that I was kind of like the Jane of all trade, because I started as a personal counselor. So if people call in and they're wanting to like buy on different products, or they have questions, or they need to extend their access, or they have personal counselor questions, I can kind of answer all of them. So don't even bother transferring the call anymore. I've even started learning in tech support stuff. I've even asked my support guys, I'm like, can you just tell me how to troubleshoot if this isn't working, or we can do. So we really want to make sure that we're helping with all facets of it. And all of the success stories that come in, that's been the resounding thing that we hear is like, everyone was so nice. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that I used this program. And we love that. That's like the best thing ever. I love being at conferences. I love being out and hearing people, you helped me pass my exam. It was so easy. I felt so comfortable going in. We're like, yes, that's great. Love it.
Yeah, that's a great testament. So Carlos says, I got to go. Thanks for your time. Thanks for stopping on or stopping by, rather, Carlos. Austin said she feels my pain. I have spectrum. I don't know what's going on with these folks. It can be windy and we lose internet. Um, so Steph does have another question. She says, for those of us ready to get ready studying, when is the new material released for 2025? And is it a reasonable goal to study for and pass the exams by next tax season?
Yes, definitely a reasonable goal. If you get started studying, I would say in the next month. And the only reason I say in the next month is so that you give yourself a couple months' time and through the end of the current testing window, February, to sit and test for the exam. You can definitely get all three parts done. Our material we just released April 1st. We're still in April, right? It's not May yet. I'm not like
Yes.
jumping. Okay. I'm like losing my days. So we just released our 2024 April 1st, and that is our brand new tax information tested on the exam that's tested opening May 1st when the new exam opens. So getting the course material now, you will have all the information that you need to test for May 1st through February of next year. And if for some reason, with the premium system that gives you that unlimited access, or if you buy the other packages with the 12 months, you should be getting through until the next one. It will offer updates. So if we release any updates or the new additions, it usually morphs or migrates to that. And if something changes in the course itself, any updates that we make, with it being all tied online, that gets updated in your course as well. So you never have to worry that you're using out of date material or you're not studying the most up to date stuff. Gleim has definitely got you covered on that to make sure that you've got what you need to study.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I always encourage people, if you do tax preparation, you do need to take that little kind of breathing break. But if individual taxation is your strong point because of the way like the test works in tax law, don't let it get too rusty. Go ahead and jump in there and start studying and take that part first. Steph said, thank you and appreciate you realizing I'm in 2024. Um, so Courtney, I appreciate you being here. I am going to emphasize that you have said more than once that you all at Gleim enjoy getting questions and you're happy to help. So we have about 8 people on LinkedIn and just a few still on here. If you all have any questions at all, I definitely want you to take advantage of Courtney being on with us right now. Um, and my last question for you, this will just be a bonus for the people that have stuck on with us. Um, do you have any study or test taking tips? Because as you mentioned, the testing window opens up next week. Will be May 1st. I think it is Wednesday. So we do have some people that will be taking the exam pretty soon. So yeah, if you have either study tips or because Steph is here, we know she's about to go get the review system. Study tips or exam taking tips for our audience tonight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I posted in there, and I don't know if the link for the EA demo went to everybody, but I did post it in there. So can I post that in the comments? Maybe?
I will.
Did that
It
go?
came to
Okay.
just me.
Oh, okay. Well, just kidding. So, but yeah, so my study tips back from putting on my personal counselor hat would be um, we definitely want to make sure that you are saving time and practicing as many questions as possible because you're don't get discouraged at the beginning because your scores are not going to be all that stellar, and that's okay. And you're going to take quite a bit of time with answering the questions, and that's okay. When you get towards the end, you should be getting or seeing that 75%. That's usually the gauge that we want you to use, so that way you can use that as a point to go back and fine tune areas, so that you're not consistently restudying every topic, because then you're just going to study until the end of time and you'll never take the test. So that's the first one, is use that 75% as your gauge. You don't have to get 90. The next would be, as you continue to practice, you're going to get closer to that minute and a half or 2 minutes per question, which is where you need to be for testing purposes, to make sure that you get through all 100 questions in the time allotted. Read the end of the question first, and then go back and read the whole question. And that's only because it can kind of help you to figure out what they're asking, and then allow you to go back and fully reread the question. That does help to save some time. It sounds like it's backwards, but that definitely helps. You want to make sure that you're reading through the question and taking your time to read through and looking for any words that could change what they're asking, like not, without, except. Those are all different things that would kind of change what they're asking. And there's a feature within Gleim, and it's in Prometric as well, where I think you can right click to highlight words in the question, so that you can know what your, like, those standout words, what you need. And then as you go through your answer choices, you can cross them out. So you can mark out answers that you know 100% are not right. So I would definitely utilize those, just to make it a little easier and a little clearer on yourself. Again, that's probably going to take you more time at the beginning than at the end once you fine tune through. But make sure that you're reading every single answer option. So I would, in my personal counselor days, talk with candidates when they're studying and they're like, I keep getting my scores. I don't understand why they're not going up. I feel like I'm making the same mistakes over and over. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So my first question was, when you go back and you read the answers and explanations that we give you, are you sitting there like, duh, I knew that? Like, you're having that aha moment, like, I totally knew it was B and I picked A. If you have those aha moments, you are going too fast, and you need to slow down, and you need to read every answer choice. Because if you get to B and you think, oh, that's it, let me hurry up and move on, it could be that it's C, or it could be that it's D. And that's such a silly mistake and costly mistake to make on the exam if you just take the extra time. And as you practice going through, I promise it'll feel like 10 minutes, but it really won't be. You'll be at like a minute and a half to 2 minutes, and you'll be answering all those questions and reading all the answers to make sure that you've picked what you wanted. The other would be, they have sections now in the exam. I had to remember if it was testlets or sections. It's sections. So there's 50 multiple choice questions in section 1. Then they give you a nice break that you can take without being penalized. And then you can go into section 2 for your next 50 questions. Once you move out of section 1, you cannot go back to section 1. Too bad, so sad. You have to move on to section 2 and carry on. So we encourage you to answer every single question. And if you're not 100% certain, flag it. And then before you leave that first section, then go back and take the time to answer those questions. But you don't get any points or even half points if you don't answer anything. So don't leave anything blank. Answer all your questions. Go back to your flagged questions. Take your scheduled break, and then move on to section 2. Those would be my tips and tricks. Oh, and information dump when you get into the exam in Prometric. They give you all of the fun tools that's known as a pen and a pencil. It's pretty much it. But they can't take what's in your head. So if you've got formulas that you're written down and you're just write them all down. That way, if you can't think of them, like, think about when somebody asks you for the name of a movie and it's like on the tip of your tongue and you can't get it. And you're like, I know what it is. If you write it down and you information dump it, that's part of the rules. You can do that.
Yeah, that is a great tip, because I remember I did that and I was nervous because I was like, I hope they don't think I'm cheating. But there were like formulas I was like, as soon as I get in here, I need to write these out because I know I'm going to forget them as soon as I get to the question it applies to. So that's an excellent tip. You taught me something new. I didn't realize the exam was split into sections now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
That's
relatively
interesting.
recent. It used to just be 100 multiple choice questions and you could just go as you wanted. And then they decided to make it 50 and 50. And then they give you a complimentary break, which is nice. So you can get up, stretch your legs, go scream in your car and come back in, whatever you need to do. But it does make it a little nerve wracking because once you get out, like I said, if you're in, say you're on question 53 and you're like, oh shoot, I didn't answer for it. It's like, so that's why if you answer them all and then you just check before you leave, then carry on.
Got it. Yeah, very cool. Well, Courtney, I don't think we have any more questions. I did put the link for the EA demo. You all should see it on Facebook. I know it's on YouTube right now. Once the live is over, that link will go away. So I'll go back in and make sure that I post it in the comments on YouTube and pin it. My folks on LinkedIn have it. We have the most people on LinkedIn actually, and they're just, I guess they're shy tonight. We won't know. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. If anybody has any questions or anything like that, is there a way that they can reach out to Gleim or reach out to you to ask those questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll type my information in here to you because I think it's making me sign in or something for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
I don't know, I don't want to do that. What if I lose my stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
what if I'm like, oh, I can't get back on because I have Spectrum
Don't
too.
be a me.
I have Spectrum too. But that is my contact information. So if they are too shy to ask questions now or they think of questions later, they can certainly reach out to me or reach out to Gleim and we will answer those questions and help and hopefully get everybody that's on to become enrolled agents if that is their chosen path.
Awesome. So it's on LinkedIn, it's on Facebook, on YouTube. Steph says, thank you both so much. This was such a helpful session. Appreciate you joining, Courtney, and thank you for leading this, Timalyn. It is my pleasure. I'm glad you have been able to take full advantage. You haven't had to share too much tonight, Steph. Um, Again, thank you so much, Courtney. I appreciate you doing this with me tonight.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you having me. I love, like I said at the beginning, I love everything that you're doing for this to help to promote the profession, to educate. We need it, and it's I love it.
Well, the rest of you all enjoy your evening, and I will see you back tomorrow with tomorrow night's video. Bye.
Bye, guys.